Hello and welcome to the Capitol Report on NTD Television. I'm Steve Lance. Bank records released today showing over $20 million paid to the Bidens, the foreign cash flowing from oligarchs from Ukraine, Russia, and Kazakhstan. NTD's congressional correspondent Melina Wisecup reports for us. So, Melina, what more did the GOP-led Oversight Committee say about the Biden family's latest bank memos?
So this third memo by the Oversight Committee is the result of subpoenaing 6 banks, and it's focused on payments made to Hunter Biden by wealthy foreigners. Now, for example, one foreigner that's mentioned here is a Russian billionaire by the name of Yelena Bachurima. He paid $3.5 million to Hunter Biden and his business partner, Devin Archer, through a company known as Rosemont Seneca. The key thing here that the Oversight Committee notes is the timing of this payment, as well as others made by oligarchs in Ukraine and Kazakhstan, for example. These payments happened in the February of 2014 and the spring of 2014. Then just months later, then Vice President Biden sat down and joined a dinner with Hunter Biden and these same business partners that he was engaging with. Not only one dinner, but 2 dinners. To be clear, President Biden has not been directly linked to any of those payments, but there is an account that received money that's linked to an unidentified Biden. Now, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, I recently asked him if the lacking of this hard evidence would impact their investigation. He said that witness testimony could fill those gaps. See, that would need to be a proof of communications that you would need to look at, right? And if there's...
Or people that were in the room, people that know exactly what.
So, Melina, going back to the shell company Rosemont Seneca, there is one person in particular who stands out because he had meetings at the White House during Obama's presidency and visited then Vice President Joe Biden's personal home. Tell us more about this.
So this is about a man named Eric Schwerin. So he was the president of Rosemont Seneca. Fox News recently did an analysis about how many times Schwerin visited the White House during the Obama presidency. And it was discovered in that analysis that Schwerin visited the White House more than 36 times. One of those times he visited, he was having a direct meeting with then Vice President Biden. And he also visited at least 15 times or more President Biden's personal home. So what's next for Comer's investigation here? Well, he says they'll continue to follow the money, keep digging. They're going to request more witness testimony to ultimately uncover and reveal whether or not our national security has been threatened.
Melina, thank you for that report. More details surfacing on the indictment of former President Trump. Special counsel Jack Smith obtaining a search warrant for Trump's Twitter account back in January. It's according to court documents released today. The warrant required Twitter, now called X, to supply Smith with certain information about Trump's account. A federal appeals court judge ended up holding the company in contempt and imposing a $350,000 fine for failing to comply with the order by the deadline. The DOJ also obtained a non-disclosure order prohibiting Twitter from releasing information about the case. Smith's office argued that disclosing the search warrant to Trump would put the investigation at risk, suggesting it could give him the opportunity to destroy evidence. The Twitter warrant is part of Smith's investigation into the former president's alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. The oldest sitting member in the United States Senate has suffered another health scare. California Senator Dianne Feinstein was once again hospitalized on Tuesday following a minor fall at her home. Feinstein's absence from the Senate prompted calls of resignation from her colleagues on both sides of the aisle. Last week, the 90-year-old lawmaker handed power of attorney to her daughter Catherine, granting her the authority to act on her mother's behalf. And the Biden administration today announcing new bans on U.S. investments that could help the CCP. It comes amid mounting bipartisan concern over national security threats posed by the communist regime. NTD's Iris Tao brings us more from the White House.
President Biden on Wednesday signed an executive order to ban certain U.S. investments in Chinese artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and semiconductors. Biden writes in the executive order that such sensitive technologies can be used for the military, intelligence, and surveillance by countries of concern, which constitutes, quote, an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security of the United States. Biden adds that certain U.S. investments risk exacerbating this threat, and he thereby declares a national emergency to deal with this threat. The latest move comes amid growing bipartisan concerns over threats from the Chinese Communist regime. The Biden administration last year restricted exports of advanced chips to China, and he stressed today,
America invented these chips. You all know semiconductors are those little small computer chips about the size of any fingertip that affect nearly everything in our lives, from cell phones to automobiles, refrigerators, to the most sophisticated weapon system.
Meanwhile, the administration has stressed for months that any restrictions placed on U.S. investments in China will be narrowly tailored.
These are tailored measures. They are not, as Beijing says, a technology blockade.
But some experts say it's necessary to further counter China.
So these so-called targeted sanctions and targeted restrictions really aren't very effective. There's probably $2.3 trillion or more of money that's been invested in China. It's just too much money going into the wrong hands.
The new restrictions are expected to go into effect next year. Reporting from the White House, Iris Howe, NTD News.
New York City's mayor today changing his approach to tackling the immigration crisis, laying out exactly how many billions of dollars the city will have to spend if things do not change. The goal? Financial aid from the federal government. NTD's Ariane Pazdar has more.
But we are past our breaking point.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams on Wednesday again calling for financial aid from the federal government. That's to assist the sanctuary city with the ongoing immigration crisis. Adams laid out how much the city is expected to spend on immigration over the next 3 years.
More than $12 billion.
Adams is asking both state and federal government for more funding and space to house immigrants. He recently said the city is currently considering housing people in tent cities in Central Park, among other locations. Adams on Wednesday also challenged the city's right to shelter law. The Big Apple has to provide beds and care to anyone in need because of the law.
That is just not sustainable. It's not realistic. And so because of that, you're finding people come from all over the globe.
The city is reportedly spending almost $10 million on illegal immigrants every day, and the number of people seeking shelter is expected to double within the next 10 months. Meanwhile, at a border town down in Arizona, House Republicans held a field hearing on immigration on Tuesday. A local rancher described the impact the influx of people has, saying some are cutting his fences.
I spend 50% of my time fixing fences, broken water lines, and getting cattle off the highway.
And a local county sheriff talked about the dangers imposed by cartels.
Border-related crime is at an all-time high. Death, murder investigations, agents, troopers, deputies, and others are addressing dangerous scenarios, criminals as a direct result of an open border exploited by these criminal cartels for violence, fear, and greed.
The sheriff is calling on the federal government to issue an action plan which prioritizes the southern border. Ariane Pazdar, NTD News.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.